Do you think the Fed has less power over the bond markets than people think? Is confidence keeping debt from selling off and yields going higher? Yep. Yes. I mean, if you want proof of this, just look at, like I said at the beginning of the live stream, look at reverse repo and the 1 month treasury. So, just in case you don't know, the reverse repo rate set by the Fed is supposed to be their way of setting a floor on interest rates. So that's the way they could, when they say we've raised the Fed funds rate to uh, a range between 3.25% and 3%, or between 3.25 and 3.5%. That's our range for Fed funds. What they're doing is they're saying that's the range that we want the overnight rate to be for the dollar globally, or at least domestically. And so they can control IOR because that's what they pay on reserves. They control the discount rate. They control reverse repo. And the theory is that if they set reverse repo at, let's say, 3%, they're setting a floor on interest rates because nobody would lend at a lower rate, because why would you do that when there's going to be risk involved, when you could lend the Fed your money and get 3% completely risk-free? Why would anyone do that? And so the pointy heads, or the PhDs at the Fed, they thought, well, no one will. And we're brilliant. We're smart. We know all the variables. So the market can't outsmart us. So we'll just do this reverse repo rate. And then the market comes by and just goes, pow, and punches them in the face. What I'm talking about is the 1 month treasury. Sure, you want interest rates to be at a minimum 3.05%. Okay, we're just going to go ahead and trade the 1 month at 2.45, 60 basis points under the rate you're trying to set as a floor. That's basically the bond market giving the Fed the middle finger and saying, we don't care what you want interest rates to be. We are going to set the floor for interest rates. And of course, the Fed doesn't like to talk about this. And for some reason, this gets no airplay on CNBC. Not even mentioned it once. And I've got to give credit where credit's due. I started watching it when I heard Snyder and Emil start talking about it. This was probably 6 months ago. And I remember back then, they were talking about on their podcast, and they were shocked that it was like 10 basis points under reverse repo. And now it's 60 basis points. And now I know there is an argument, and a very good argument, that not everyone has access to reverse repo. Got it. I get it. I totally get it. And so you could see a little bit of a delta. But let's say it's the delta going back is usually 3 basis points, 5 basis points. We're not talking about 60 basis points. That's a whole different ballgame. And even the argument that 100% of the delta is a result of foreign entities, let's say a Japanese pension fund, not having access to reverse repo. I don't know. I mean, I'm no expert. I'm just an amateur. But if I'm a Japanese pension fund, how would I not have access to Fed's repo indirectly, right? They're not banking with a bank that has access to reverse repo at the Fed. And if they're not, the bank that they bank with doesn't have a corresponding banking relationship with a bank in the United States, or they don't have a sister bank. They don't have a bank that's under the same corporate umbrella or a subsidiary, or they're not a subsidiary of a U.S. domestic bank that has access to reverse. I don't know. I mean, I get it. If you're average Joe in Japan, sure, you don't have access to it. But I don't know. If you're a $20 billion pension fund in Europe, I think you could figure out a way to get that 3.05%. Maybe I'm wrong. Again, I'm not an expert. Just trying to use some good old-fashioned common sense. But that still doesn't negate the fact the 1 month is trading 60, and this is very unusual. And so what is this telling you? This is telling you that the market wants those treasuries for some reason, and they're willing to pay 60 basis points to get them. And when I say 60 basis points, because that's what they're giving up by not parking that cash on the Fed's balance sheet, or not parking it reverse repo. That's a better way of saying it. So why would they do that? Well, Jeff Snyder would say, because, George, there's a collateral shortage, and that is the pristine collateral. So they're willing, pay up for the best collateral that they would prefer over cash, because it gives them more flexibility in terms of managing their balance sheet. But I'd take it one step further. Hey, listen, guys, Jeff is 1,000 times smarter than I ever will be, but I see it a little bit differently. From a standpoint, when I hear a collateral shortage or a collateral deficit, the first thing I think of is an excess of counterparty risk. Think about that. Why do we even need collateral? Why do the banks need collateral? Because there's a risk they won't be paid back. If there was absolutely no risk of them getting paid back, would they need collateral? Nope. If they gave a loan to themselves, as an example, would they need collateral? So when you take it to an extreme, it's a lot easier to understand the concept. When counterparty risk increases, or let's say perceived counterparty risk, so does the need for collateral. It's either that or the economy, the global economy is just booming and people need that collateral because they're trying to lever up. I don't know. I think we're more in a risk off type of environment with the global banking system. So assuming you have that same view, then a shortage of collateral is just another way of saying excess counterparty risk. Sure, you can have that $1 billion loan, corporation XYZ. But if you want that 5% interest rate that you got in the past, we're going to need a lot more collateral. And oh, by the way, last time you gave it those mortgage-backed securities, yeah, that's not going to work this time. This time, the only collateral we're willing to accept 1-month T-bills. Why? Because there's just a lot more risk in the world. Shoot, we don't have a choice. We got to go buy those 1-month T-bills. What are they trading at, Steve? 2.45%. What? You mean I got to pay 60 basis points to buy those stupid things? Or those are trading 60 basis points less? They're trading at a premium? They're trading at that high of a price? Yep. Do we have a choice? Nope. All right. I guess we have to buy the treasuries at any price because we need the loan for $1 billion. So you guys, in my opinion, it goes back to counterparty risk. That's all the 1-month treasury is telling us right now. The amount of counterparty risk in the global economy is increasing. I don't want to say exponentially, but I will say significantly.